What's up, everybody? Welcome to Mongols. This is our reaction show. We're going to talk all about the Hounds losing 1-0 to Indy 11. I am Mike Sparks. Joining me for this one is Justin Ashcraft and Steve Mattias. Gentlemen, as we speak, I believe the Riveters are up 3-0 at halftime. So the women are kicking it. We won't talk much about this game or that game really at all. We're going to leave that up to Liz and Kaz to sort of do a full recap of what's going on in Riveters world.
Can we actually just switch that around? Like,
I
talk
wish.
about that game,
yeah,
and
that'd be
talk
great.
About the Hounds, yeah.
Oh, man. Happy Father's Day to all of those of you who partake. Justin, did you guys do anything fun for Father's Day?
I cooked breakfast for dinner on the back stove, which is nice. Good. So it was a great dinner for Father's Day.
Awesome. Steve, you got anything going on this weekend?
Taking it easy, doing a lot of cleaning, bought a dust extractor, so it was really cleaning out the wood shop.
Okay.
Yeah.
When you just say dust extractor, I'm like, what? What?
So,
okay.
So that's exciting because there's not sawdust everywhere. I'm not stepping in it and tracking it upstairs, which makes me want to go and do more woodworking because I can clean up the messes better and keep the sawdust down in the first place. No, I was dog sitting for my neighbors last night into today, and their dog is a lab. She's pretty old, so she doesn't get around well. And I tried to get out this morning and mow the backyard. She follows me outside. I start mowing, and the rain hit much earlier. And by the time I finished, it's pouring. And it took me way longer because she's just like sitting in my way. And then she's just like sitting there in the rain like it's nothing. And Rory is nowhere to be found. He's avoiding the rain. So that was my morning, getting soaked, watching a dog get soaked, and my dog be running away from it all. So fun stuff.
Fun stuff indeed. Yeah, my weekend got away from me. We haven't been able to cut our grass because the lawnmower started dying. So yesterday I replaced the fuel line on it, which I was like, oh, good for you. Like, you figured that out. Good. And then I realized that's not actually the problem. The problem's the fuel pump. So I had to order a new fuel pump, and now I got to install that before we have people over this week. It's a whole thing. But yeah, about as much fun as the game that we were about to discuss. Is there anything else you guys want to talk about before we dive into the latest in Riverhounds world?
How many other things can we figure out how to talk about before?
Yeah.
I'm really milking the dogs and mowing stories.
Yeah. Well, let's do this. Laura Allen, air quotes, sent in a "Hey, sir." Let's just go ahead and play that, and that'll be our segue into the game itself.
And now, "Hey, sir," 1-minute reactions with Laura Allen. This has been Hey Sir, 1-minute reactions with Laura Allen.
So for those who are listening to the podcast, it just said refuse to contribute in protest. So that kind of tells you her thoughts on things. Now,
and she sent that to you.
No.
Oh, no. Okay.
No, Justin, you guys were at a baby shower last night. Is that right?
Yes. In all reality, Laura Allen's sister is having a baby in August or September. And so they had a baby shower last night. And so we were there. And so we did not get to watch this game.
Yeah. So Laura Ellen let me know in advance, and she was like, "Is it even worth sending anything considering what we're hearing about the game?" And I said, "I got you." So she actually didn't refuse to contribute. I just told her, "Don't worry about it." But I figured that would be very par for the course for her. Guys, so the Hounds go to Indy, lose 1-0. Steve, you and I talked about this last week where we said, in the next 3 games, we're kind of Indy 11, who prior to this game were below the playoff line, Tampa Bay, who were bottom of the league. Now they have climbed up the table just a hair by beating Miami this past weekend. And then, a worthless Jägermeister Cup game against a USL League One team. Give me a takeaway from this game, Steve.
It's a 0-0 game if Barnes doesn't slip, I think. But there was absolutely nothing on the offensive side. I've got a dog in my face. Sorry. He just came out of nowhere.
Yeah.
Was not ready for that.
Yeah.
And so, it's just the same thing we've been talking about for a little while, that Bob has no answers offensively. Pretty frustrated with this game when the offensive substitutions, again, talk about poor substitutions by Bob, come in the 80th minute.
Yeah. I mean,
about where I'm at.
Statistically, we had 4 shots, nothing on target. So no shots on target over the course of the entire game. I put, that I thought our offense was really kind of only coming from DG and Robbie, and it's not tactical. It's just them trying to put the entire team on their shoulders and just hustling. But that's only going to get you so far. Statistically, we have scored 9 goals this season, which is dead last in all of the USL. And for context, Charleston Battery, who are the league leaders, have scored 28 goals this season. So we've scored I can't do math right now. We scored 19 less goals than the Charleston Battery this season. So yeah. And this isn't this isn't like we're still in the early throes of the season. We're 15 weeks in. So we're practically halfway through the season, and this is kind of where we're at. So I thought Dick made a few good saves. The goal that they scored wasn't really anything he could do about it. And also, if you look statistically at our defense is tied for second in the league with only allowing in 11 goals this season. So it's not like the defense isn't doing their job. We're the second. Well, I mean, there's 4 teams that make up sort of like the top 2 spots, but we're in the top 4 in terms of goals allowed. But I guess that old adage that, defense wins championships only matters if you're also scoring at the other end, which we just aren't. I don't know. I really don't know what to say about this game other than I thought, I said, Danny and Robbie just kind of ran all over the place. Eric made some saves. The defense did okay. If you only let in 1 goal, you're giving your team a chance to win, but not if we can't score. Justin, you had taken a screenshot and I saved it. I'm going to put it up on the screen. Why don't you talk through sort of this screenshot from the game and sort of share your thoughts as it relates to the problem that we're facing right now?
Yeah. So to frame out, I didn't watch the game. I went and watched the highlights this morning, trying to parse through the game, right? So the highlights started. There was the 16th minute save from Eric Dick, on the corner kick that he made a good save, all that kind of stuff. Skipped to the 45th minute and the goal. And then it skipped to the 73rd minute, which was this move right here. And this move actually ended up well. It ended up with Beto getting in the box, getting to the end line, across the box, and nobody being there. But it actually ended up pretty well. But what I noticed about this screenshot is just the facts of what you see on the screen bothered me. So the Pittsburgh Riverhounds are down 1-0 with 17 minutes left in the game. You have a defender on the ball who is well in possession. There is nobody pressuring him. He is in possession. He's got 4 passes you see there. He's got Jackson a couple yards to his left or his right. He's got a guy 2 yards in front of him. He's got a guy 10 yards in front of him to his right. He's got a guy to his left down the line. And then you have Augie with 3 defenders on him. And the other thing that bothers me about this is you actually don't, other than Beto at the bottom of the screen, don't have a defender in this shot for the Riverhounds. The Riverhounds are in possession, down a goal with 17 minutes left in the game, and you're outnumbered in the offensive side of the field 9-7. This can't happen. This is not the way this works. You're losing the game, you have to put people in the box. And then it's frustrating because all season long, Augie needs to perform. Augie needs to perform. Augie needs to perform. I don't know how Augie's supposed to do anything in this situation. 1, he can't get the ball. 2, he's got 3 defenders covering just him. And I don't know. I don't know what else you. I mean, I just don't know what else you want me to say about this. But I saw this screenshot and I was just like, this is the problem with the Hound season. If we are at this point where we are down 1-0 in a season that is going to waste, and you can't get more numbers on the offensive side of the field when there's only 17 minutes left in the game and your strikers playing 1v3. I don't know what else to tell you. Like, this just doesn't spell success for me when it comes to the Hounds this season.
Yeah. I'm kind of out of words, really. I think my biggest thing, and this is sort of, we'll circle back to kind of our top 3 players of the game because we kind of have to do that. I finally updated the board. I removed the Riveter stuff because I haven't been keeping up. I need to add that, but everybody else is updated. It dawned on me this morning that we used to always have this conversation with Kevin where as soon as Liverpool got within striking distance of the title, he said that his default was that he went from being excited about the possibility of winning to nervous about the potential of losing, because every single game is so important that if you're in a title race, you can't lose any games. Mm-hmm. My default with this team, for right or wrong, is I now expect us to lose. If we can't score, I'm going into every game thinking we're going to lose. And if we win, I'm like, hey, look at that. Like,
I'm hoping for a draw as the best case scenario.
Right. And you know, what it takes for us to win is somebody showing up and playing out of their mind after their first child was born 2 days earlier. And that's what's going to get it done. But like, otherwise, there's nothing there. And, you know, when we go up against Tampa, I know Tampa's been a terrible team. Tampa got themselves a new coach. They just beat Miami 2-1 this past weekend. Does that make me think that Tampa's going to come here and roll over and we're just going to win at Highmark? No. Like, I could very much see a world in which Tampa beats us this weekend. And so I'm not getting my expectations up for anything. And that takes us back to like Dave Brandt era of Riverhounds, where your expectation is just like, well, we'll see what happens. And if you get into the playoffs, like, woo, all right, we made it, guys. We've arrived. And like, it feels like those days should be behind us. So I don't know. Justin, how do you feel about all this?
The difference, the frustrating thing for me is like, yes, I was there. You guys were both there back in the Dave Brandt era watching this team. And in the Dave Brandt era, it was kind of the opposite. You saw the tactics that we played. We just didn't have the quality of players that we needed to win games. It was just, as a team, like, not that there wasn't good players, and nothing against Rob, nothing against Kevin, nothing against Dan Earls. Like, these are good players, but as a team, we didn't have enough on the field to consistently win games. There were just teams in the league that were better than us, and this feels the opposite. Like, we have the players. There's nobody on this, like, in our general starting 11s with a couple, you know, like, an additional player or two. There's nobody that I'm like, hey, they can't play in this league or they can't figure out how to play in USL. But the tactics are like, what is happening here when, again, you're down 1-0 in late game and you're still playing a back 5. Why? And you're still sitting with 3 defenders at midfield who aren't going up the field. Why? Again, like, it's like, I don't, like, Perrin Barnes is good, but like, get up the field. Like, Luke Biaggi, again, good player, but get up the field. And if it's, I just don't know, like, how else to explain it other than coaching at this point, because a lot of these players we've seen have success in this league, and we've seen them have some of them outside the Riverhounds, Augie, other guys, but like, we've seen success outside. We've seen success with the Riverhounds. And so it's not a question of like, can these guys do it? Yes, they can. Are they going to do it with the tactics that we're playing this season? I think the answer to that is a resounding no. And I feel very much the same as you, Mike, that kind of like Tampa's been the worst team, the second worst team over the course of the season. And I have no faith that we're going to beat them next week. One, because I don't have faith that we beat anybody at this point in the season consistently. And number two, it's Tampa. And Tampa has always been kind of our Achilles heel, and we can't really ever beat them. I don't understand why. And so I don't see us beating them this season either. So It is frustrating because it's just becoming demoralizing to sit down and watch a game. And even last night, I was thinking the contrast for me is stark because I watched the Philadelphia Union last night, and they're a team that right now, going into last night's game, they had 5-6 players away on international duty, some with the national team, some with other national teams. Their leading striker and the Golden Boot leader for the MLS is stuck in Israel because of political crap that's happening there, and so he can't get back to the United States. And they give away a freak goal that makes it 1-1, and yet in the 98th minute of the game, they're pushing, corner after corner, like pressure after pressure, and they finally break through in the 98th minute and score a goal to win 2-1. And I'm like, that's what good teams do. They find a way to win. And I look at this Riverhounds team, and I'm like, if we were a good team, we would have found a way to get points out of last night's game, because it wasn't. That's the difference of talent and quality on the field is not that stark. But I just don't believe we're a good team at this point in time.
And I mean, to be fair, this was an Indy team that wasn't setting the world ablaze either. This isn't like, we're playing the Battery, who are at the top of the table. Like Indy were beneath us, I believe, prior to this game.
Yep.
And so it's just a case of we didn't show up. Steve, before we kind of pick our top 3 players and then kind of migrate on to a broader conversation here, just thoughts on everything that sort of Justin and I kind of threw at you.
I mean, I think overall, I agree with pretty much everything you guys are saying. I don't think it's that the players that are starting these games are not good enough. Mm-hmm. I do think that we do still suffer from some of that Dave Brandt era, that we don't have a full team of good enough players. And I have said this how many times this season, last season, over the years, right? That you can't expect that the guys that take 3-4 years to develop into top tier USL championship level players need to be the ones that you're calling for off the bench. And I think that's what we see in these games, that Bob has no options on the bench when it comes to forwards. We need goals. And what does he have on the bench? He's got Jacqueline, and that's it, right? Like, that's the only other forward on the bench. Yeah. You're hamstringing yourself because you're unwilling to change your tactics, or maybe it's not that. I've got another theory that we can talk about in a few minutes, but I just, like, it's mystifying to me how you go that goal was scored in the 40-something minute, right? Like, you go 40 minutes before you start making offensive substitutions, and even then you're bringing in a forward and a midfielder.
Yeah. All right, before we get into the broader conversation, because I know, Justin, you have a lot of thoughts you've been sitting on for like a week and a half, because we have not done our preview show. Let's quickly kind of pick our top 3 here for this one. Steve, my short list, I think, is probably, once again, I've said all of their names already, probably Mertz, Griffin, and I'll say Dick too, but I don't know. How are you feeling about it?
I mean, Robbie still, I think, was the best Riverhound on the field. He was doing a lot of work. He was everywhere. He was breaking things up. He did have that give and go with Augie, where he got the back heel back to Augie, and a good, unfortunately good defensive play by former Riverhound Pat Hogan to block it. I think Danny is the other player just because he was working hard. I don't think he had as much of an impact going forward.
Agreed.
But I think he was protecting the defense quite a bit, even though he was playing more advanced. And so he was making everybody behind his job a lot easier. Again, I don't know that I agree with Dick, only because he made a couple of good saves, but he's a goalkeeper. He needs to make a couple of good saves. And I don't feel like he actually did that much that was that exceptional. I think that before he came off, Luke Biasi was having to do a lot of work defensively, and he was doing it really well. And he was, I think, defensively the only defender that I feel like didn't make a big mistake.
I think that my man crush on Luke Biasi has like passed over to you now because he's been in our list for the past few weeks because you keep bringing him up, which is fine.
It's I have taken to heart what he has said, that if you're not paying attention, you won't see all the hard work that he's been doing. And I'm paying attention, Luke.
All right. So I'm not opposed to that. I think outside of the top two that I mentioned, which I'm giving based purely on like hustle and like not wanting to quit, I'd be fine swapping in Biasi. Are you okay with that as a top three? Mertz, Griffin, Biasi?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So there we go. There's our top three. Let's sorry. I mean, Justin, I know you said you watched the highlights. Is there anything from the highlights that makes you think that that's wrong?
Yeah, I mean, the highlights can be deceiving, but I saw Jackson Walty make two good plays, but that's going to be my man crush on Jackson Walty too.
Yeah,
so I'm
that's
just
true.
not,
Yeah.
Jackson wasn't bad.
I wasn't gonna throw that in, but he did block it in the highlights, and there wasn't many. He blocked across, and then he had that shot that should have gone in late in the game that the guy headed away. But that was a good shot. It would have gone up 90 had it not hit that guy's head. So
yeah.
I was impressed, but I didn't watch the whole game, so you guys can go with your top three.
All right. Well,
I will say, as an honorable mention for Jackson, after that shot, I think I did put in our Slack that that is not the first time he has gotten a ball at the top of the box and put it on what would be on frame. And I really appreciate that he's able to stay over the ball.
Agreed. Mm-hmm. It feels like in a season, and we'll sort of see how this all shakes out. Jackson's still near the top of the table for us here. We have a number of guys that are being forced to wear a number of hats. And I think that Jackson is definitely one of those guys squarely that has 3 or 4 different jobs that he's had to take on this year. And offensively, I think is one that talking to him is not something he would kind of put himself in that category, but he's kind of had to do in a way that I feel like a couple of the other guys are feeling like they have to do stuff to compensate.
Yep.
So, no, kudos to Jackson. All right, let's do our Mondo's moment, and then we can have this broader conversation about everything else that's going on.
It's time for Mondo's moment, the top moment of the game from the Mandalorian.
This week's Mondo moment from Indy 11 versus the Hounds comes halfway through the first half. In the broadcast, we were joined by Peppa Pig, the adorable puppy. Peppa Pig joined us on a pillow, where he yawned and looked cute. This is the play.
This has been Mondo's moment. Go Hounds.
Where he yawned. Yes.
And looked cute.
He sent that to me and he was like, oh, that's my joke one. I was like, nope, that's going. That's the one. We're putting in the show. It's done. So just further highlighting how riveting this game was.
Speaking of,
yeah,
the score's gone up over there.
What's the score now? I don't have my phone out.
5-0.
Oh, geez. Listen, man, Riveters, I know that maybe they started a little slower than what a lot of people were expecting, but it looks like the division is kind of theirs to lose at this point. Mm-hmm. So keep taking it to them, women. Let's get into the playoffs and see what happens.
Yeah.
Justin, I know you've had a lot of thoughts. Let's just dive in and go broadly. What are you thinking about this squad? How are you feeling? All the things.
Yeah, I mean, you guys know me, and you guys know I'm about historical context and trying to contextualize what's currently happening. And to me, I did a little bit digging the week because I was trying to figure out like kind of what do I expect this team to do and what can I expect this team to do and all that kind of stuff. And I found probably the most depressing stat I could find. And it wasn't that I tried to find it; it just happened upon me. And so when you look at the Hounds record in tournament or knockout games, so whether it's a tournament game like the Jägermeister Cup or it's a playoff game or whatever, tournament or knockout games, the overall record's not bad. But when you start to break it down into actual and seeing where those wins and losses come from, we are a grand total of 3-12, 3-13 against USL opponents.
Wait, say that again.
Against USL.
3-13 against
we are
USL.
3-13 against USL opponents. And to me, I look at that and I go, okay, like, cool. When you look at that, you go, okay, I think Boston wins games here and there. Like, he's won a lot of games that are interesting games that we've won. I mean, when you look at our record against MLS teams in knockout games or those sorts of games, it's like 4-5 or something, like 3-4 against MLS teams. So we're pretty good against MLS teams. When you look at our record against lower division opponents, we're 6-0. Bob is great at beating USL League One teams or lower. You know, we beat the Maryland Bobcats several times. We beat the Dayton Dutch Lions. Like, we've beaten these teams, and he's not going to lose to these teams. I would almost bet my house on the fact that we beat Westchester in a couple weeks, because he beat teams that are not that good. But then when you go to USL opponents, we are 3-13 against USL opponents in tournament or knockout games. And that includes the 2 losses this year in the Jägermeister Cup. And so it's just like, all right, cool. You know, like, it's
Cool.
I just don't know what I just don't even know what to do with that. Like, we can't beat USL opponents in tournament games.
And look, I mean, this is something where, Steve, last week you and I came out pretty hard in sort of the Lily out category. Justin, I know you kind of share the sentiment there, and, you know, we can get into more of that if you'd like. But if you look at it in the context of how does this organization, how do these players, how does the team define success? The number of players that I've had on here, and I've said, would you rather win the Player Shield or the USL Championship? Every single one of them says the USL Championship. Mm-hmm. You ain't winning the USL Championship with a 3-13 record in knockout games against USL Championship teams. So you might make it to the playoffs. You might be the top seed going into the playoffs. But if you can't win a knockout game against a USL Championship team, you ain't winning a championship. That's not going to happen.
So I'm like, now thinking back, so based on those stats, that means we've only won one Open Cup game against a USL championship team, right? Because the other two are USL playoff games.
I have it in front of me. So we beat Birmingham in 2022. That was or 2021, or 2022. That was the 7-0. Sorry, that was the 2-1. That was the 2-1 playoff game. And we beat Birmingham in the playoffs 7-0. Those are the only 2 times we've beaten a USL team in the playoffs with Bob in charge. And then the only other USL game was we beat back in 2019. We beat Indy in the Open Cup. We've had 4 opportunities against USL opponents in the Open Cup. We lost to Cincy when they were still USL in 2018. Then we beat Indy in 2019, and then we lost to Tulsa last year. And those are the only 3 times we've actually played USL opponents in the Open Cup. And so we're 1-2 in the Open Cup against USL opponents.
So our hope really in the Open Cup should be beat a USL League One team and hope for MLS in the next round, because otherwise we're not getting through, which is insane to say, but
and we'll get that 1-0 late win.
here we are, right? I mean, we're getting that prize money once again for being the longest standing team, but like, good Lord.
But I also do want to put that in a little bit different perspective, that I really think that Columbus is the strongest team we've faced and beaten in terms of number of players that are generally on their first team starting 11. That every other team that we've beaten in Open Cup has had a weakened and more development-based roster. So it's not like we're beating top-tier teams, right? Like we see it when we went to Cincy. We saw it when Justin and I were in Philly, that when they bring their big money players in to accentuate the good players that are already on the field, it makes a big difference. And this level can't compete with that. It's not the Hounds, it's this level.
That makes the 3-13 number worse to me, because if we could beat MLS teams when they put the second team out, then we should be able to beat USL teams when they have their first team on the field, and we can't do that. So,
or is it their D team instead of their B team?
It is one of those things where it's kind of like, what would you prefer? We've had this conversation loads where it's like, would you prefer a USL team that does really well and is dominant all season and is winning all season, and then you lose in the first or second round of the playoffs, which it kind of feels like there have been years where that's been us? Or would you rather have a team that can squeak into 7th or 8th, but they have a better than a 3-13 record in knockout games, and you can make a deeper run in the playoffs? And it's just,
I think that we're put in the position where you even have to ask that question, because on the one hand, we've been told for years that the organization is purposefully trying to win a championship. And yet the best that we've been able to do is get knocked out of the playoffs in the first or second round and have 2 seasons where we were top of the league and top of the East. Right. And so it's like, but you're not backing up that. Right. And so then we're forced to ask the question of, well, then what looks better? Because you're not building an organization that can compete year in and year out with the teams like Louisville, Sacramento, Charleston, San Antonio.
Let me ask you this.
You're hoping to get better than them in a single season.
Let me ask you this, because this just crossed my mind. Is Bob the type of coach that can win a season but not win a game? Does he build a team with the goal of performing well over the course of 32 games, but if you put him in a single game, can't figure out how to win it with everything on that one game? The stats would say yes, but is that what you need to be successful, Justin?
I think, looking at the other thing that I dug into, I think Bob is really good at beating teams that are worse than him. I don't think he can beat teams that are better than his team. And so the other stat that I looked up that I was wondering about was, I looked at the teams that finished in the top 5 in the conference on any given year. What did Bob do against those teams? So I looked specifically at the top 5 so sometimes I was only 4 because we were one of the top 5, but it could have been, 4 or 5 teams every year. We were a total of 23 wins, 26 losses, and 17 draws. So 40 of the games, 40 out of 66 games, we got points. But when you think about our playoff record against those same teams, we lost to Lou City, lost to Lou City, lost to Lou City, lost to Detroit, lost to Charleston. Like, we haven't won a single playoff game against those same teams. And so I think that would tell me kind of what you're saying. Bob is really good at getting points against, like, he's really good at getting consistent points. He can get draws when he needs to most years. I would say this year has been the exception. But he can get draws when he needs to. He just can't get a win when he needs to. And so draws over the course of a season will keep you in the playoff hunt and in the playoff conversation. It's not going to win you the playoff game when you actually need to win the playoff game.
Yeah. So I think that if you had asked me that question, Mike, a year and a half ago, I would have said, yeah, that's probably true. He can win in a season, but not win in any given game. And I think that the answer now is no, he can't win in the season, and he can't win the individual game. And I think a big reason is because he has no idea how to replace Kenny Forbes. And as soon as Kenny started, and you've seen that over years, that a few years ago when Kenny was dealing with a lot of injuries, the Hounds were not performing consistently. Whether he is on the bench or in the game, I think is not as relevant as his presence with the other players and the impact that he has had on the players around him and made them better by practicing with them, by working with them. And he's just not in the position to do that anymore. And last season, when he was barely touching the field, we went really poorly for a long stretch. He is now no longer a player, and we're worse than we've ever seen the Hounds under Bob Lilly. And I think that is the reality, that he has an ability to identify talent. He found the best midfield talent that the league has ever seen and rode that train for almost a decade. And now that player is gone, he doesn't know what to do.
I want to talk. You touched on something. I want to talk about that for sure. I want to circle back in a second. But one other thing about the win the season versus win a game also to me now justifies why he's okay throwing away points early in the season as he figures out the team, because the hope is that we'll pick up points later in the season to balance everything out. But I think what the league is kind of screaming for at this point is a coach to come in and you can outcoach any other coach in a given game, regardless of where your team is at, and you could get points and win, as opposed to just saying, well, I'm trying to figure out my team for the whole season, instead of saying, I'm going to go in and win this game.
And that's the conversation we had 2 weeks ago about the Rhode Island game, that the Hounds did absolutely nothing different. And Cano Smith came to Highmark with a game plan to coach differently, and he coached differently. Whereas Bob will just continue to say, no, the system will work. But the system doesn't always work. And other teams are going to respond to the system. And so what do you do then? You have to be flexible. And moving some players around tactically, positionally, and waiting until the end to make your substitutions does not do that. So you're out of ideas. You have to either do something different or hang up boots. Yeah.
So the glaring issue here, as we've been saying, is that the defense seems to be doing well, but we can't score. I threw this question to you guys in our Slack. I'm curious what your thoughts are here, and if anybody has thoughts on this as well, please feel free to share in the chat or over on social media. But if I were to, let's go back to the over-under game. Realistically, if I asked you how many games do you expect us to score 2 or more goals in over the rest of the season, and I put the over at 3.5 games, Justin, are you taking the over or the under? Do you think that we'll score 2 goals or more in 4 games or more this season, or less than 3?
I'm taking the under. We're definitely less than 3. Your forwards can't put balls in the back of the net. You're not going to score that many goals. And as much as I love Danny and Robbie and work that they do, and how they can get into the box and create chaos when they want to create it, you just can't win consistently on that. Good teams will figure out a way that, if the forwards aren't going to score today, we'll figure out how to get the ball in the back of the net. But you can't win that way consistently. You can win a game or 2 here and there that way, but you can't win consistently that way. So I think I'm taking the under on that.
Steve?
100% agree.
Yeah.
No comment.
I mean, look, it comes back to that zero confidence thing that we've been saying, where it's just, I'm going into these games now. And again, fully support the players. I think we have the players to do some good stuff here. It's just that I have no confidence that we're going to win any given game. And I have no confidence that we're going to score more than a goal in any given game until the team shows me otherwise. So I don't know how you fix that. I mean, do you guys have any thoughts on how we fix that?
Yeah. Fire Bob Lilly. I don't have any other answers. Right? He's not doing the most important thing that you need to do, and that is getting the team to score goals.
Yeah. This
isn't the players. Justin did a great job of breaking down how Augie is stranded on an island. You're talking about a guy that has 77 goals in the league. He's, 5th highest goal scorer in league history. And he's got 1 goal because he's expected to do everything by himself and does not have the support that has made him successful in the past.
Yeah. Justin, I know you were kind of firm, like fuming Lily out to the point where you were like, "It's good I'm not on the show last week." Outside of the stats that you shared with us earlier, was there anything else that was kind of pushing that stance?
Yeah, I mean, I think to Steve's point, it's the tactics for me. I think when you're, it's really easy to stop the Hounds right now. If you keep Barnes and Biazzi pinned back, we got nothing. We got no way to score. We got no way to get up the field. We got nothing. Like we have to use our width, and we don't. That's the whole point of playing a back five, is to use the width of your wing backs to get up and down the wings of the field. And if you can figure out how to keep those guys pinned back, which Indy did a fairly good job of, you can't score. You can't get into dangerous positions, and you can't make things happen. My other thought would be, you have two center back in Vactor and Suber who have been fairly good this season. Why not just shift to a back four and get their midfielder forward on the field and see what happens? It just might be the thing that could work out for you to get more danger opportunities at some point.
But that's how we started the season.
Up there. That's
right.
Yeah,
like,
but
that's how we started. The season. And when it didn't work the way Bob wanted to, what did he do? He reverted back to a back five because he doesn't have any idea how to do something different.
Yeah, and that's my
he's
thing.
Just trying he's just trying to stem the bleeding at this point, and it's not working.
There are different things you can do with this team and with this configuration and with players that could make us successful, and it's not happening. And so if we're going to continue to roll the same lineups with the same formation, with the same tactic, and we're going to continue to no goals, I don't know what to do there. And I go back to this goes back to last season. To me, it's not just this season. Last season, Burton Jockinson came in and was on fire for 8 games and essentially got us into the playoffs in 8 games. And we brought him back in this year. But again, now all the teams in this league have 8 games worth of footage, plus everything this year to figure out how to stop that. And we're not doing anything different with him. That we're him on the right side of the field and hoping he can make something happen. Well, last year he did, because there wasn't all this footage that teams could watch and be like, "Oh, cool, this is how you stop." So I think there's things you can do, but I don't think
I'll quibble that we're not doing anything different with him, because the problem is we are doing something different with him. And we're not giving him the chance.
That's true.
He's barely gotten to see the field, and he's played 2 games for most of the game with Augie, right? Like, part of the reason he was successful is because he was up there with Kizza. Can we just? Oh man, that really ticked me off. Chiza. Last night is how they kept saying his name. Poor guy.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, once again, I forget the announcer's name. I did a pregame it wasn't pregame. It was an insider show with him. Really nice guy, but I was just like, oh yeah, all right, man. So okay, Steve, you and I talked a little bit last week about the whole Lily out thing, and realistically, if it were to happen, do we have any sense of if or when it might happen? In your mind, is there anything that the Hounds could actually do that would cause Tuffy to choose to make a switch midseason, Justin? Or do you think that inevitably we're just going to have to ride out this season and see where it goes?
I mean, you've got a coach on your women's side who might be free in 4 weeks, who could tactically switch things to make this team more aggressive, who might be able to make this team successful for half a season. I don't know. It might. He seems to do pretty well with no preseason and throwing a bunch of women on the field and figuring out how to play with them and making them successful and making them aggressive and helping them score 5 goals in a single game and all of that
7
kind of
now.
stuff. Who in a month from now might be free after winning the USW League Championship. So that could be the thing. To me, I think, Mike, you're right on. I mean, to me, there's a time when you sit here and blame it on the coach, and you go, okay, if the thing is not working, you're 15 weeks into the season, it's clearly not working. You can't even win the knockout games that you need to, the tournament that is midseason, other than the one against NYCFC. It's it's clearly not working. And so it goes back to, okay, first of all, the coach has got to switch something up. The coach has proved that he's not going to switch anything. And then it goes to me, that goes into ownership. And the ownership's got to say, okay, things aren't working. The coach has had time now to do some stuff with the team and figure things out, make a change. And to this point, there's no indication that they're willing to make a shift either. So that, as a fan, puts me in a very negative spot of like, okay, the season's not going to turn around. And so why watch for the rest of the season? And if I've got 90 minutes on a weekend to watch a soccer game, which team am I going to watch at this point? Well, I'm going to turn on the Riveters because they're going to score 7 goals. I'm not going to choose to spend the time watching the Hounds. Maybe for a goal, maybe not.
Yeah. Was the final score of that game 7, by the way?
It's still going.
It's 7-0.
Yeah.
Good Lord.
Like, I just keep glancing over because I've got it up in the small window, and it's just like 7. Where'd that come from?
Awesome. Steven,
Josh, Liz, and Mondo must be having a blast at this game.
Yeah.
Kaz too. That's right.
Steve, is there anything that you think could happen during the season that realistically would force them to make a change?
My opinion is that I don't think that there is any results at this stage that will force Tuffy to make a change. I think the only way that a change happens is Bob buckles under the pressure again and does something that really puts Tuffy under the gun to have to make a hard decision. That is not something specific to the results on the field.
So similar to all the drama that we were talking about over the past few weeks. Yeah. Off the field stuff. Yeah. Boy, I don't know.
At this point, like if I'm Tuffy at this point, the thought that I would be having, and I've this thought a lot over the past couple of weeks, is do the Riverhounds deserve to be in the Premier USL Premier, whatever we're calling it at this point? And my answer is no. I don't think they deserve to be there because to me, they haven't shown the guile to win and to try to win. I think for me, like looking around the world, looking at other teams, like, you know, Jim Curtin was successful for 9 years with the Philadelphia Union, had one bad season, and they go, oh, you're gone. Ange comes into Tottenham this past year, turns the team around, at least in the European side, has a rough Premier League season, but wins the trophy on the European side. And Tottenham still says, nope, we're going after Brentford's coach, and we're gonna move that direction. And to me, I think ownership needs to have the guile and the brass to say, I want to win, and winning in some ways is more important than loyalty. I think there's when you bring a coach in and they have a rough first season, yeah, you stick with them. You go, okay, let's see what happens in the second season. Let's give them time to develop and do what they want to do with this team. But when you're 8 seasons in, and now you're on this season and a half rough territory and terrain, I think I would want to make a change to show the USL that I'm going to do what I need to do to win, to stick around in the Premier League when promotion and relegation comes along.
For me, it's even earlier than that. It's you're investing money to triple the size of your stadium, and if your team keeps losing, you ain't going to sell those tickets. So, like, why are you investing in tripling the size of your stadium if your team isn't even going to make the playoffs?
Yep.
So, yeah, I don't know. I don't know. I keep hoping that, like, a string of losses would be enough. But we've already seen other teams kind of make a switch. And is it too late? Is it not? I don't think it's too late, but I'm with you. I'm going into every game expecting a loss at this point. So why am I going to sit here and, these shows are going to become very repetitive. And I apologize to everybody, but like, what else are we going to talk about?
Yeah. But so I think there's like, in the time that Bob Lilly has been with the Hounds, the Hounds have hosted 3 home playoff games in the first round, and played on the road 4 times. And I think that kind of lines up with some of Justin's comments, but it also lines up with that question of going to the USL Premier League, right? Like that means that over more than half of the seasons that this team has not been in the top 8 of teams to play at home, right? Which means they may be able to get promoted if they're in this division, but they're not going to be competitive with those teams if there's 8 teams that are consistently or more that are consistently getting those home playoff games, right? So using home playoff games kind of as the teams that are at the top of the next level up of the pyramid's table. They're not there. They might get lucky one year or so, but the consistency is not there. And I think that is what the question is really asking, right? Like, yeah, you can get a lot of points in a season and be good for one season, but are you consistently good enough to be competitive at the top level? And the answer that we keep coming to, no matter which way we approach the question, is no, they're not. And that's on Bob Lilly's shoulders.
I have one last thing I'm going to add, and then I'm going to ask you. I'm going to talk, so you guys have time to think about this. I want to end this on a positive note, so I want you each to come up with one positive thing to say about the Hounds, not the Riveters, the Hounds, as we close out this episode. The one other thing that I will say is that every time we go on away trips and the games are broadcasts, the announcers always tend to say how much of a legend that Bob Lilly is, and I wonder how much of that plays with the notion. 2 things can be true at the same time. Bob can be a legend. He can be a coaching legend, but he could also be really struggling right now to put together results on the field and be causing like backroom issues. Those things can coexist. And so I think, unfortunately, we're kind of stuck in this era where people who aren't as familiar with what's actually going on and only see the Hounds come to their stadium once a year just think Bob Lilly legend, and they don't think, but the team has struggled for the past few years and can't score goals. And yes, they might be difficult to break down, but beyond that, they ain't really going anywhere. So just if anybody in the front office is thinking, just keep in mind, those are 2. We acknowledge he is a legend, but you still need to deliver. So, okay. That said, Justin, give me one positive about this team as we head into the outro here.
Yeah, I think it's a strange thing for me as I think about this, because individually or player-wise, this has been one of my favorite Hounds teams to watch since the 2018-2019 teams. Those 2019 teams were very familiar with Bob's system, what he wanted them to do on the field. He had a lot of players that were, all that kind of stuff. And this team sort of reminds me of that. You have Danny, you have Robbie, who have been around for Luke, been around for years and years, who know what Bob expects, who can play on those, do what he wants them to do on the field. And then like sort of like those 2018-19 team with Tommy V and other players who came in that Bob sort of developed. I see the same thing happening with Suber and Edrich and Perrin Barnes. And, Perrin Barnes, I mean, you want to talk about, flashbacks of Jordan Dover and some of those guys Ryan James running the lines. That's what Perrin Barnes does. Like, that's what he's good at. And so, like, individually, this team and player-wise has been one of my favorite teams. I mean, you guys know how big of a fan of Jackson Walty I am. Like, I love watching this team play. And if they could ever figure out how to score, I'd like all in on this team of like, this might be one of the best. But tactically, we're just not there. But I love the individuals team. I love watching Super Edrich, Walty, Perrin Barnes. Like I really, really enjoy watching them play soccer.
Yeah. Steve, follow that.
I think a lot of it does have to do with the players. I could go down which players I like watching and whatnot, but I'm gonna go kind of the other route of the character of some of these guys and the perseverance to continue to fight and push in the face of adversity is something that I think is really admirable. I mean, we talked about it, especially with Robbie and Danny in last night's game, of not giving up no matter what. And I really want to commend that in these guys.
Yeah. Same. I think that my highlight would be the guys. I feel for the guys on the field, but to a person, every single one of them seems legit. I don't know if I've not made it a secret. Maybe I have made it a secret. There are players that we've talked to in the past that I'm like, oh, he's kind of a tool. And like, I would not say that about any of these guys. Like anybody that I've talked to.
Only O'Toole.
Oh, only O'Toole. Yes. Well done. But no, all of these guys are like great guys to talk to, great guys to hang out with, like, you know, just great people. And so absolutely like happy to support them. Just would love to see different results on the field, which as we've sort of made emphatically clear here, we don't necessarily think is their fault. So yeah. Okay, guys, next up we got Tampa, like I said, at Highmark on Saturday. They're no longer dead last. They did beat Miami 2-1. If we lose to Tampa, who have been woeful, they will only be 2 points back on us in the standings. So just keep that in mind. Gentlemen, any other sort of closing thoughts before we get out of here?
No.
Alrighty. Well, thanks everybody. We appreciate you listening. We'd love to hear your thoughts. You can find us all over the socials. You can also leave a comment if you're watching this on YouTube. Leave a comment below. Let us know what you think. We read every single comment. We typically respond to every single comment. We do appreciate it. Spread the word. If you know other people that like the Hounds, get them to be part of the conversation. Because it's a fun time to be a soccer fan in general in Pittsburgh. It's only going to continue to get bigger with all of the different tournaments and things that are going to be happening in and around the country in the coming years. So it's a great time to be a soccer fan. So let's just keep those good times rolling regardless of what might be happening on and off the field for the Hounds. So thank you, everybody. We really, really appreciate it. We will be back with more Hounds and Riveters content for you very, very soon.
See ya.
Did I see